Gentlemen, welcome to the room formerly known as the wife sewing. Hold my beer while I proceed down this slippery slope. Now, you may think this is a CNC machine, but it's more of an art machine because there's no G-code involved, and as you can see, we're not making any chips. So I stand by my no CNC cool as fuck. It's the Axie Draw from a couple of people in California. I paid good money for this. Expensive, but I think worth it because all the software is open source, and I had looked at this years ago and it wasn't very skookum looking. It was all plastic and crappy. Other than this chintzy little servo, she's fairly skooking. I've been running it for 2-3 days and only 2 glitches. Ew. For enclosures, look at that. All I gotta do is drill the holes. Skookum as fuck. Oh, that one was a little off. Yeah, man, you want a dorky t-shirt? You gotta make it yourself. You can't buy this kind of street cred. Check it out, man. That is an exceptional idea. Look at this. Brilliant. No, man, I'm in trouble. This thing is awesome. I find myself just enthralled like a little boy watching this thing. I mean, with the whirly gigs and the belts and the noise and the singing and the mess. Well, no mess, but that's the only thing missing, really. You remember the fight we had with this monstrosity. Well, I just won the war. Willkommen in der Bumblefabrik Werkstatt. Now, right off the bat, this is not going to be an unbiased, objective review. For the obvious reason the first, white man, born in North America, of a certain age, there are some inherent biases there. And anybody who says that they are doing completely unbiased work they're the biggest fucking hypocrites on the planet, and I should know. I know hypocrites. Reason the second, and rather more obscure, is I fucking love this thing. It's friggin' awesome, and somebody's making it. They got a little shop, maybe slightly grade above cottage industry, but yeah, they're just making cool shit, putting it on the internet, and making a go of it. I mean, that's noble. It's, first off, really clever belting design. Love it. I don't think they invented this design, but having implemented it perfectly, it's great. So nice little anchor point here. This is an expensive part. CNC 6160 aluminum extrusion and machined, and we can see the belting arrangement goes around. It's a single belt, one loop, goes around this axis on an idler, and there's a bunch of idlers here in the cross part, and then it just goes over to the steppers. Now look what happens if I run one stepper. It moves diagonally. It moves both axes. So, same, only different for the other side. Now, if you want to get it to one axis only, you need to move both steppers at the same time. Now let's see if we move that. Yeah, see? So freaking cool. I can watch this all day. And the stepper motors themselves are just the bog standard NEMA 17. Little, that'll be a 5mm shaft on there. Nice big the shaft collar, or the idler, no, the drive pulley and the shaft collar, I believe, are one. No, that's just a shaft collar over top of that pulley, large size pulley. Focus, you fuck. Works every time. Nice big set screw and nice big flat on that. So there's only one set screw there, so they're not too worried about that backing off. But if over time these will back off, the way to mitigate that if you're in an industrial situation is not to Loctite it unless you really have to, because that, you know, that fucks the guy after you, and chances are it's going to be you. What you do is you put in one grub screw and you put in a jam grub screw in behind it. So it's like a jam nut. You have two set screws in there, and the one is cinched down on the shaft. The second one just cinches down to make sure it doesn't back off. So just a couple of little baby steppers and not much torque. You can easily stall this out by putting your finger in the way. Oh, some really nice design features here, not backyardigans at all. We can see that there has been a progressive development. This is a fairly expensive part for what it's doing. It's essentially just a guard and a little name plate, anodized aluminum, bent. So a number of processes. This would go out for, well, you'd have to buy the material, you'd send the material to the bending spot would bend it, and punch it, and then you'd have to send it to the anodizer. Now, I believe the anodizer is doing this. This isn't screen printed, silk screen printed. It appears to be anodized right in there. So they would need a mask on there and then do it maybe in two processes, dip in one color. Well, yeah. But not a cheap part at all. All these aluminum cross sections, I'm not sure if they're completely custom or off the shelf. But interesting cross section here. Nice and stiff. You can buy these for about half the price from the usual suspects. They all have just round linear slides, like nothing that stiff. So I'd be, yeah. In this case, you kind of get what you pay for. And if this is assembled in the United States of Freedom, assembly is going to be the most expensive part of this whole thing. We can see that they're wasting money and being sloppy here, because if on the front end you're on it, what you do is you make a kit of all the fasteners. You kit them up, you go to your supplier, and you get your supplier, a good supplier, to kit them up for you. And you buy, you know, you buy however many you need plus a certain amount, and that's for lost fasteners, breakage, yada, yada, yada. And then you don't get this nonsense with the mixed-matched fasteners, fasteners that are too long. Now we use a nut, for fuck's sakes, come on, a nut as a spacer because the bolt is too long. Like, really? Now these are interesting, these little plastic slides. That's a pain in the ass part. Look at that tiny little part, and you gotta mill it out like that. That is a pain in the ass part. That's pricey. There's no real super chintziness going on other than with the assembly, and it's not the guys in the shop assembling. It's not their problem. It's the purchasing. They haven't put the foreskin into actually getting their kitting proper so that it doesn't look like it's made in somebody's garage. A closer look at the fasteners. Here we go. We got stainless 304. Total overkill for this, but nice touch. We got black, nitrided, or phosphor. Duh. And then we got electroplated. Now these are all Allen key, metric Allen key. And then posi drive, you know, just all over the place. It takes way more time to change fasteners. So the guy's all set up, he puts this fastener in, and then for this side, the poor bastard's got to grab a nut. He's got to put it on the backing. He's got to friddle fart around to get that in. I mean, it doesn't make a sense. Here's a blatant patch job here. 6 spacers. Some poor bastard has to assemble, and all they needed to do was increase the length of this member. Like, what's the problem? You know, what's the major malfunction? So there's something funny going on with these fasteners in here too, the way they're affixed to the section. So we're gonna take this all apart. So this little bracket, I've already bent it just by cranking this down. It is, it could be a little bit more robust, or I could just be a little bit more ginger. I was surprised though that this is plastic. Of course, I thought it was metal. It felt, it didn't even dawn on me that this could be plastic. Of course, the soldering iron found out right quick in a hurry. That's a minor detail though. I don't blame them for not engineering this with me in mind. That looks to be about 4 millimeters. So I'll go ahead and get a stainless or just any metal fastener that's not going to melt. That's, yeah, 4 millimeters. Oh no! 1980 GMC pickup truck syndrome. Trying to be cool, what with the science kids, metric, and then, oh, we can't get that in metric. A thumb screw? No. 832 machine. Pick one. Pick one. That's a nice feature here. They've slid on little bumpers onto the rails, and this, of course, is just what lifts that pen up, and the mechanism is supposed to be 40 grams max on the pen. That's just a tiny, craptacular plastic gear servo motor. Cheap, 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 super cheap, but does the trick. Speaking of smart and cheap, these things, friggin' brilliant. I had never seen these before, just for running little light stuff. Brilliant. And then they got those little split fasteners there, the friction fit, and then they tab in there. Brilliant. And I don't know if that's an off-the-shelf component or if they had that custom cut and made, but look at that. As the, yeah, very smart, so that it bends and tweaks, you know, in 3 dimensions instead of just in one plane. Very smart. Very smart. Now, that's an interesting extruded profile, and they just thread that, put it in. But 3 spacers. I mean, okay, so they're in the States, they're in California. Maybe their labor rate, they're paying the guy $10 an hour to put this together, but that's costing them with the overhead and all that. Their shop rate's got to be at least $30 an hour, costing them oodles of money. There's lots of room for improvement on this thing. Here's the bottom side of the cross section. After using this for nearly, well, straight 2 evenings and winning the Stay Up Late Olympics, being a bag of shit at work the next day, I can tell you that I wish they had extended these out so that when this dingle-dangle arm is hanging out in the breeze, the thing wants to tweak over a little bit. And it doesn't matter, okay, here's the thing. It doesn't matter on paper with a pen, but it does matter, it changes the hangulation when you got a Sharpie on a t-shirt, or when you got a soldering iron in styrene. It makes a huge difference because you are worried about your third axis, your Z axis then. So that's an upgrade I'll be looking at, is to just extend these out. And they're not going to interfere with anything because this is the end of travel anyway. It dawns on me now why this is different, because this is on an eccentric in order to take up slop here. These ride on, looks to be polyethylene rollers. And some 625 RS bearings. RS, of course, just sealed both sides. Here's a nice little professional touch. They've used flush cutting side cutters to nip off all the zip ties so you're not turning yourself into hamburger meat if you rub across there. Unfortunately, now this is up to the assembly gnomes. They didn't do it everywhere, even though they had the proper tool for the job. The tool on the tool didn't do a proper job. These are still gnarly. And all it takes is just that millisecond to just make sure it's butted right up against, and then you snip. They really put a lot of thought into all these little brackets, and they obviously went to the supplier and worked out with them, you know, what could be done cost effectively and robust. Like, this is a nice part. Now this is incredible. Just total awesome overkill. This is above, way above a consumer grade into the industrial grade wire management and the affixing of the board to here, we have big beefy screws and soft bushings and hard standoffs. Love it. I mean, to paraphrase Tom Lipton, nothing too skookum ever broke. So love it. This is awesome. And of course, open hardware. I'm surprised to see it's not Evil Mad Science Labs. You never see open source stuff or you know, boards, Arduino boards, or this, that boards. It's always the AT Mega, sometimes the MSP430. But here we got a microchip. I'm going to look that board up and I'll get back to you. This board is from Brian Schmaltz, the same guy that does the Easy Stepper board that you can buy from Eat a Fruit or Spork Fun. This you can only get from, well, you can only officially get from Mad Science or Evil Mad Science Labs. $50 US. So I thought, that's kind of expensive, you know, some guys. I would pay the $50 if I needed it because these guys are making cool shit. But if you wanted to cheap out, you know, could you get it from China for less? Not really. Cheapest one I could find was 37. So $13 in the difference. I'd just go with that. And yeah, you never know what you're gonna get. These guys are support and all that. This is actually for the Eggbot, which is the same thing, but it's a 3D printer that prints, or a plotter that prints on eggs or round shaped objects. Well, maybe that might be a next little thing to play with, but yeah, nice little board. Now for what it does, this thing is super rigid. I mean, skookum. But they gotta get the fasteners under control. I mean, it's out of control. And then they gotta extendo cock this by just a smidge. And then, yeah, other than that though, I mean, like I said, they're making cool shit and they're putting it out there on the internet. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. And they're helping another guy out too, or the other guy is helping them out. Like it's all very, very cool what's going on nowadays. Thanks for watching. I love the Inkscape. The Inkscape software is a bit twitchy. It's a pain in the ass. One thing I wish they had would be like a hard stop, because in the software you stop plotting and it doesn't stop plotting. It won't communicate. I don't know if there's a backlog there in the G code, but what I end up doing, horror of horrors, pulling the plug on it and then resetting it manually, moving my stuff around, and then going. Also, the Inkscape software itself, I need to take a tutorial or something because it's just horrific. Like, it ain't nothing like MS Paint. But like you go to do some text and the font will change on you all the time, or you change the font and it goes back to the, it's just, yeah, nightmare. It's kind of no fun. Thanks for watching. Hey, keep your dick in a vice.